Celebrating with the portion of time.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Monson Carr, Relations Officer here at CSMSJ. Just apologize for the late start. On behalf of the CSMSJ, I welcome you all to this first public lecture for 2026. We at CSMSJ have embarked on a series of monthly lectures with our own local and international presenters, and we are honored to have Dr. Neville for this our first lecture for this year. We now acknowledge Dr. Neville Valley, Dean of CSMSJ, Dr. Ruth Russell, CSMSJ, and also Dr. Neville Graham, founder of CSMSJ, former Dean, former Executive Dean, and currently serving as CSMSJ Finance and Development Officer. Those who acknowledge Ms. Daniela Hyde, Registrar, members of staff, students, family, and friends. A warm welcome to you all. And as we are so late starting, we invite Mr. Stella Wright, our accounting officer, use our guest.
Good afternoon, everyone. It is my pleasure to introduce our guest speaker for today. Dr. Neville Graham is a distinguished Jamaican surgeon, educator, and visionary leader whose career spans over 3 decades in medicine, academia, and public service. Renowned for its expertise in general, vascular, and laparoscopic surgery, Dr. Graham has dedicated his life to advancing patient care, medical education, and research while fostering collaboration across diverse institutions and communities. Dr. Graham began his medical journey as a junior registrar at the Port Antonio Hospital in 1995, later serving as registrar at Stub Hill Hospital in Glasgow, UK, and the Kingston Public Hospital in Jamaica. His surgical acumen quickly earned him recognition, leading to senior roles at Kingston Public Hospital, where he served as senior registrar and later a consultant surgeon. Since 1996, he has practiced as a consultant surgeon at several leading hospitals in Kingston, including Winchester Surgical and Medical Institute, Andrews Memorial Hospital, Medical Associates Hospital, St. Joseph Hospital, Nuttall Hospital, and the Kingston Public Hospital. In 2002, Dr. Graham founded the Winchester Surgical and Medical Institute, where he served as chairman. His vision for accessible, high-quality surgical care has made the Institute a cornerstone of Jamaica's medical landscape. Dr. Graham's commitment to education and training is evident in his role as Executive Dean of the Caribbean School of Medical Sciences, Jamaica, since 2014, and then as Chief Development and Finance Officer, a position he now holds. He has mentored countless medical students and junior faculty, instilling in them the values of humility, leadership, and dedication. As a surgical examiner for the Caribbean Associates of Medical Council, CAMC, exams since 2004, he has played a pivotal role in shaping surgical standards across the region. His leadership extends beyond academia. Dr. Graham has held key positions in the Medical Association of Jamaica, serving as Assistant Treasurer, and Vice President. His transparent and inclusive leadership style has consistently motivated teams to achieve excellence while fostering a sense of belonging. Dr. Graham's influence reaches into national policy and development. He has served as member of the Advisory Board of Jamaica's Tertiary Education Commission since 2017 and was a member of the National Nutraceutical Steering Committee under the National Commission for Science and Technology from 2015 to 2018. His contributions to health tourism as an executive member of JAMPRO's Health Tourism Committee since 2008 highlights his commitment to positioning Jamaica as a hub for medical innovation and care. He is also deeply engaged in community service, serving as patron of the Astronomy Group of Jamaica since 2004, chairman of Clarendon College Past Students Association for Sports since 2012, and executive member of the Jamaica Cuban Friendship Association since 1990. Dr. Graham's professional philosophy is rooted in excellence, ethical standards, and social responsibility. He strives to deliver the best possible care to his patients while advancing medical science through collaborative, groundbreaking research. His leadership is characterized by transparency, inclusivity, and relentless drive to maximize institutional and individual capacity. Beyond medicine, he embraces in entrepreneurial spirit, contributing to societal development and wealth creation. Dr. Graham stands as a beacon of surgical expertise, academic leadership, and advisory management. His career reflects a lifelong dedication to patient care, education, and the advancement of medical science in Jamaica and the wider Caribbean. Through his work, he continues to inspire future generations of medical professionals and leaders, ensuring that the pursuit of excellence remains at the heart of healthcare and societal progress. Ladies and gentlemen, help me welcome Dr. Neville.
You, Miss Right. Good evening, everyone, and I apologize for the technical difficulties that were involved in my late start. I'd like to thank everyone who put this thing together. I also would like to mention that with this elaborate introduction, I would like to just mention that in some of the areas, I just served as one term and not continue, like the tertiary education, the Clark and College of Sports, do, and others. But I would like to mention that deep within me, as a teacher and educator, the question of how we individually and as a community acquire knowledge has always been a centerpiece of my thinking and my own philosophy. And therefore, I thank Caribbean School of Medical Sciences to invite me to speak on this matter. And I hope that we have more students, although all of us are students. So with this, I'll just start with the philosophy of acquisition of knowledge. I hope this. Thank you. Now, I start with a quotation from the great Greek philosopher, Plato. Excellence is not a gift, but a skill that takes practice. We do not act rightly because we are excellent. In fact, we achieve excellence by acting rightly. And this picture of the universe, for me, is very important because the universe is so wide, so diverse, and at the same time, the universe accommodates these little dots, to which many of them are much larger than their Earth. The universe, by all research and account, is billions of years and continue to expand. And recently, question of black holes and the study of the universe, in fact, changed how science understands matter and recognize that there is another state of matter called plasma. And so therefore, for me, the universe is very big. At the same time, the universe is like the atom. And yes, I was just waiting for the speech. The universe is like an atom. This is our galaxy. And Earth is just a small dot within the suns of the, like a dot in the sands of the beach. But saying that, knowledge is where we have to go. Knowledge is where this institution is based on. This is a knowledge-based institution, and it therefore recognizes that for all of us, our duty is the continuous development. And right now, we have knowledge as a bulb, the analysis of knowledge, the solution, education, information, experience, and learning. And the word, when we look, learning and experience are cornerstone. But what changed what we usually see as norm is that understanding, the analysis and critical thinking that creates the basis of knowledge acquisition. Yes. Now, the definition of knowledge is that it is the application of theoretical understanding and practical experience, awareness, information, objective and subjective, practical skills, and knowledge is acquired through information, perception, reasoning, and analytic thinking, critical thinking, scientific inquiry, which is based on research, and practical experience. And all these factors must be recognized when we understand knowledge. And for the students then, if you are going to be successful, you must know how to acquire knowledge and what to do with it. And next slide, please. Epistemologists, who are those people who study knowledge, those people who try to understand the philosophy of knowledge and impart it to us, to which I think I am one of them. Knowledge experts all agree that theoretical basis and practical experience are the founding principle of the philosophy of knowledge. And this one I'd like everybody to know. Theory enriches practice, and practice strengthens theory. And therefore, only when the question of getting into the practice is the understanding of what knowledge is. Continue. Next slide. Scientific knowledge, systematic study based on objective laws, observation, data and analysis, exploration of nature and reality. The scientific knowledge is grounded on mathematics and natural sciences. And it's because of this that for this continued success of your institution, our institution, for the students' understanding, is a question of maths, physics, chemistry, biology, and understanding that knowledge is grounded, especially in those areas. And therefore, medicine, the knowledge of medicine, understanding those is important. When we look at understanding the basic sciences, the physical structure of the human being, functions of the human being, chemical activities that take place in the body, biochemistry, response and changes that occur when forces such as time, environment, physical and emotional stress, organisms that cause disease processes, chemical agents, and physical intervention that makes sometimes give us another opportunity. So the process of knowledge has to be a big factor. And the receptors, or eyes or ears, feel, smell, taste, speech, pain, and internal subconsciousness are all recognized as we walk through this process. We actually participate and collaborate with the external forces. So our brain and spinal cord process the information. Information is stored as memory, and memory has to be reinforced by using analysis and critical thinking, directs our actions as behavior and conditional reflex and immunity. So it is natural then that we need to continually understand that in the process of acquisition of knowledge, we have to know how the human system works. The theory involves theory and practice. Now, you see, everything is cornerstone. But oh my, theory involves the physical, the philosophy, the laws, guide, the character, and essence. Theoretical basis involve allows one to understand the structure and function of a phenomenon and apply reasoning to predict and at times manage the outcome. It also creates conditions for research. Einstein and the theory of relativity, mass and energy, E equal mc squared, and I would say no medical student should not know E equal mc squared, where energy and matter are interchangeable through movement through life. It means then that this theory that Einstein proposed in the early part of the 20th century has become the cornerstone of now the question of how countries manage in terms of energy. Therefore, it is now a basis even for war and peace. Practice may mean writing down your thoughts, driving, flying an aircraft, setting up a drip, surgical operation, and even lab work. The brain may conceive, but nothing will happen if the hands are not engaged in the transformation. And therefore, knowledge base has to be important. You study the thing, but in essence, you have to engage in a practical way. Now, sometimes it means that the practical way is the lab, the group study, the tutorial, the understanding, the writing, the drawing, the actual putting flow charts together, and think about it. The general knowledge is that you have to know things that are universal and is usually accepted as norm. Example, day and night, the state of matter, and the sciences. And what is chemistry? Because chemistry comes, especially looking at reactions and so on, you will look and say it is at this smaller level. So it is specific. Specific knowledge is focusing on microscopic structures or function at the nuclear level and or the finer points of discussion in research. Energy levels of the electrons, nuclear fission, nervous impulse, 5G now, and AI, and even the speed of the gravitational force of a planet to land an aircraft. So you have to have that general to specific all the time when you try to acquire knowledge and store it in a long-term way and able to access it when there is a need. Always go from general to specific when studying. And then after that, you can now backtrack from specific to generalization and change even philosophy. Spend time on the basics, then go to the details. All the time. Form and content. The form or outline of any object or process is descriptive. The form of the human body compared to other mammals gives you an understanding of comparative analysis. For example, all mammals, all animals have a digestive. They might have different organs, but the content and form, which will mean that they will digest their food either by ingesting it first or the amoeba that even start to digest it before it goes down into the body itself. There are some animals also that just actually digest their food from the outside. So the human stands on 2 feet. The brain is bigger compared to the body mass, comparing with other animals. And it gives us that extra edge in becoming the main species that changes the environment, and sometimes that is not as good as it should have been. The upper limbs are different. The thumb allows for writing and using the computer and the use of a larger array of tools. The content of mammals in terms of systems is strikingly similar. Endoskeleton, exosystem, nervous system, cardiovascular system, and digestive system. But the form, therefore, is very important. And it is the basis for understanding the content and the function of something. Form and content have profound effect on function. It is just an example. The form of the human brain expresses the content of our own being. Your hands expresses the ability to transform the environment. Your lungs and heart relates with your outside by using the oxygen by the lungs to help in sustain tissues, and the heart pumps the blood all over the digestive system actually absorb food, and so that it creates enough energy for the human body to partake. And the feet moves us in such a way completely different from most other animals. These 2 feet determine our ability to conquer the over the last couple of years, and thank God that it's not that bad. This is the actual structure, form of the coronavirus. And why it's so bad is that the virus have spicules like hooks that is attached to the respiratory system. And therefore, it also is able to produce, replicate itself. And while these spicules are important, its DNA, or its RNA, no, it's RNA because it's ribonucleic acid, is so unstable that it mutates so often, but still remains in essence the same, and therefore have difficult, we as human beings have severe difficulties with the disease itself. So by it replicating itself, it can run away from the immune system. It can avoid the immune system. And so during the COVID pandemic, the multiple amount of immune substances that were created was so important there, you know, in the process. But the structure of an object and system is usually important in understanding its function, as I said. Function is really what an object or system does or its usage. So as I mentioned, the structure of the heart is 4 chambers, muscles organized to distribute blood over the body. The structure, as I said, the coronavirus, therefore able to evade vaccines. That's the word I was looking for, to become more transmissible and more virulent. Function is movement. And I always tell my students, imagine, when you are looking at your physiology, imagine you're leaving half a tree, coming up to the school. You're moving and understanding that there's a root. Most of the activities of the systems are based off the root of objects and systems from nanoparticles in motion reach an objective. How the blood transforms itself, acquire oxygen at the level of the lungs and distribute it to the external cells, to the various cells, the various organs of the human. And therefore, always think of structure and function when you try to acquire knowledge. Definition and classification. In this day of AI, people forget to recognize the question of what this thing is. What is it? Definition gives you what the object is, what the phenomena is, in one or two sentences, and then explain the structure, the function, and the essence of character and characteristics. So therefore, when you look at definition, you must be able to say what is it, what you define as a human being, what you define as an animal, a dog, a cat, what are their characteristics, and therefore classification now becomes a factor. So definition can be descriptive, functional, or analytic. So example, the mosquito for the biologist is a flying insect in which the female feeds on blood and the male feeds on sap of plants. For the infectious disease specialist, this insect transmits dengue and malaria and can kill. And we must find medications for it. Now, for the public health consultant, this insect is a vector that breathes in stagnant water in the community and in the homes. So therefore, we must avoid stagnant water in both in the community and in the homes where the mosquito can breathe. Now, classification is more detailed. It takes you into various areas, for example, the species of the mosquito, types of disease that it is involved in, the life cycle of the mosquito, etc., etc. Classification gives the student of science the opportunity to organize the topic. Techniques of acquisition. The student can only progress by acquiring knowledge, passing exams, applying your knowledge in the interest of society, especially now for the adults. You have to apply that knowledge that you have actually accumulated. After understanding the philosophy, it is important to practice the techniques. Individual study, group study, in discussion, interrelation, discuss, diagrams, flow charts, research, and therefore, in an institution like ours, the question of the organization of this thing and discussion and allow people to express their thought process after understanding things, even when they don't understand well. And that's why we teach so much. So the concentration and organization is important. And the power of repetition. A lot of us think that reputation is really something that is very bad. But look at it this way. Einstein, before creating E equal mc squared, said, I've tried and failed 990 times and just one time. So the power of repetition and the rule of 5 go over this material every time, 5 times. The understanding and the principle behind subject or system. Anatomy, the study of the structure, functional anatomy, gross anatomy, histology, and tissue microscopy in microscopic anatomy give you a different anatomical pathology and embryology. All of them function to allow you to understand the organism. Physiology in study of function of organism and from the gross to the organelle, the mitochondria, and the other structures in the cell gives you a good understanding. And biochemistry, the study of the chemical processes in the body and their reactions as it relates to function. The study of systems. Most modern systems of studying medicine adopt a methodology of the study of systems instead of subjects, and therefore can relate to how the system interacts. Our institution practice a blend curriculum that is written in systems, but the syllabuses are written in subject areas, and that is important. We also practice vertical and lateral integration, and therefore able to have the same system being studied by different subjects. Development of lifelong learning skills and the use of technology, visual videos, 3Ds, etc. So, there is no theory without practice. And here, as an example, is that a doctor brings with him a wealth of knowledge and now applies it in a practical way to recognize what is happening. Next. Next slide. Knowledge. The bright star within the brain, the human brain. And my argument is always, despite artificial intelligence, this brain is the most organized matter that has ever evolved in the universe. And therefore, we must recognize how special we are and why the knowledge that we accumulate should be used for peace and benefit of humanity. Knowledge. The quest for knowledge is so important that the philosophers of bygone centuries of knew that without knowledge, without theoretical and practical basis of any structure, there is no future. The surgeon, he intervenes, attacking the body sometimes, cutting and carving, because he has the full knowledge of What is that? What he wants to achieve. Now, Abu Bakr said, without knowledge, action is futile, useless, and knowledge without action is futile. So without each one, knowledge and action, we are lost. Knowledge, the philosophy of knowledge, the acquisition of knowledge, the important factor that creates the basis of our institution. Thank you. I'm now open for any questions because this is the first part of the series of the basics of knowledge. We will have to speak on how we will acquire knowledge during this time of IT, during the time for AI, during this time. And just to plant this before we move on. All we developed, like years ago, like centuries, technology from the Stone Age to now only makes our work more efficient. Therefore, artificial intelligence is not something we should create, should be something, or we manage it for the better of existence. It is the same thing that nuclear energy should not only be used for war. In fact, it should only be used for peace. So we know, will now look later, at a later date, the question of technology, IT, AI, the Internet of Things, the Internet of how we move faster and more efficient. Thank you. Questions, if there are any. Whether online, as I welcome those people online, or through person. Questions? Is there anything coming in, Mr. Hall? Yes.
I do have a question.
Yes.
With knowledge so easy to gain, do you think that knowledge is taken for granted now? In terms of it's so easy to get nowadays, people don't really value it as much as say when you want to get it from books.
As human beings, and as the amount of knowledge that are bombarded, is that it can create confusion. That is where I think the question is the appreciation of knowledge is in danger. It means that we must go back to the basis of the acquisition of knowledge. And therefore, while the amount of knowledge increases, we have to look at how that knowledge is being used to assist our well-being. This is where I have confidence in the next generation that they will definitely be better than us, despite our concerns. Thank you. Next slide.
And Dr. Graham, you good presentation. We emphasize the progression of like general to the integration of structure, function, theory, and practice, acquisition of knowledge scientifically. But in today's space, fast space that the students are in, which is really exam-driven medical education environment, how can students effectively balance the deep conceptual understanding with the need to master the large volume of information without losing the philosophical foundation?
For me, that's an excellent question. And the whole lecture was based on actually that. The whole lecture was based on how do you assimilate knowledge without getting carried away, and the fact that in such a fast-paced society, how you would be able to be effective. And I just get back to this. When we started at this institution, the first thing we proposed that medicine can be done. But at the end of the 4 years, until now, our students have been producing at the very highest level, even though when some of them started out, you wonder whether they would. The question is how to help each individual to organize the assimilation of knowledge, to organize the theory, to use the practice, same thing as you asked, and to understand general to specific, structure and functions. And so when you are reading, you have that in your mind before. And it is in that way you read for specific reasons, but not get yourself out of the being for what you need to. The other thing is that questions, you should learn to answer questions while you assimilate. And that is one of an hallmark of the institution as well. Because people were worried, no, we're not going to give them question banks. We're not going to do these things because they would know what exams would be like. But that is the farthest from the truth. In my own experience, when I was studying, it was later I recognized how important was the question bank. Because by answering these questions and by feeling these questions, I was able to go back to the book and research. So I think that the future with fast pace, so much knowledge, so much exams, in a basic principle of how to do it is. Thank you. The question on that?
No, occurs.
Okay. I hope that this lecture is of value to all the persons that are present in the future. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone. Insightful lecture. We really appreciate your sharing. Besides,
Of course, it was already observed. Yeah. As we bring this very intriguing lecture that Dr. Graham has presented us with to a close, we extend our sincere appreciation to you, Dr. Graham, for your intellectually enriching and thought-provoking presentation on philosophy, science, and the acquisition of knowledge. Dr. Graham has done it again. He has once again reminded us that the pursuit of knowledge is not merely about accumulation, but about understanding. Moving from general to specific, appreciating the relationship between structure and function, and bringing the theory to practice. These principles are not only fundamental to medicine, but essential to the development of disciplined, reflective, and competent professionals. Today's lecture challenges us to think deeper, question more, and not approach learning with both curiosity and purpose going forward. It reinforces the idea that true scientific inquiry is guided by method and shaped by philosophy and grounded application. For students, I encourage you to carry these insightful thoughts, support philosophy forward, and not just in your studies, but in your clinical practice and lifelong learning journey that you are on. Let this be a reminder that excellence in medicine begins with clarity of thought and a commitment to understanding the why behind the what. On behalf of the Caribbean School of Medical Sciences, Jamaica, we thank you again, Dr. Graham, for your continued leadership, mentorship, and unwavering contribution to medical education. Thank you all online as well for joining us this evening, and all the persons here in the audience. Do have yourself a wonderful Christmas day. Thank you. The second part,